Guten Abend, herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass Sie heute hier sind. Unsere Veranstaltung findet heute auf Englisch statt. Wenn Sie die deutsche Übersetzung wünschen, dann schauen Sie bitte den QR-Code, der eingeblendet werden kann. Hier können Sie downloaden, dann kriegen Sie eine Live-Übersetzung in Deutsch. So, good evening everyone. Happy that you're here. I would also like to remark that this event will be recorded, so just you're aware of that. And you can scan the QR code if you wish to follow a live translation in German. So I'm delighted to see so many of you interested in our conversation today. My name is Isabel Galin, and I have the honor and the pleasure of moderating this event tonight. Tonight the theme is the innovation crisis, how to move ahead in a competitive world. We focus on innovation, on creativity, on technology, and above all, on how people remain at the center of these transformations. The challenges we face, from digitalization to artificial intelligence and the energy transition, invite technical solutions. They also call for imagination, for curiosity, fresh ideas, and courage. This dialogue brings together different perspectives to explore how ideas can turn into reality, what is needed to achieve that, and how change can be shaped in practice, especially in a world where competition is fierce and innovation decisive. What makes this conversation so exciting is that both our guests are full of ideas and visions. And although they work in completely different worlds, they are both in positions where they can actually make those ideas happen. Together, we will discover what connects them. Colette Rückert-Hennen is a member of the Board of Management at EnBW, where she serves as Labor Director and Chief HR Officer and carries many other responsibilities at the very top of the company. Her career has taken her through leadership roles in international industries, from tourism to renewable energy, and today she is helping to shape one of Germany's largest energy companies. EnBW is known for its ambitious climate goals, for innovative renewable energy projects, and for bringing together generation, grid, and customer solutions in new ways. In this context, Colette oversees a remarkable wide portfolio, from HR strategy to transformation, to compliance, to law, to audit, to auditing, to health, to corporate real estate, and this is not the full list. Since 2019, she has been guiding the company's culture and transformation. And because she sits at the very top of the company, of the organization, she holds the levers of governance. Which means when Colette has a vision, when she develops ideas, she also has the power to put them directly into action. Alistair Hudson is Scientific Artistic Chairman, the CEO of the ZKM. Here in Karlsruhe, a role he has held since 2023. Alistair is an international renowned curator and museum director, best known for his concept of the useful museum. In this vision, museums are not just collections, but living institutions of social responsibility and transformation. And the ZKM, this unique institution, as one of the world's leading institutions at the crossroads of art and technology, gives him the perfect platform to test these ideas, to put them into practice, and to share them on a global stage. His current exhibition here at ZKM, Fellow Travelers, demonstrates exactly this approach, using art as a tool to shape the world and inviting us to rethink how both culture and technology, how art can drive social change. So here we have two leaders one shaping the future of a major energy company, the other rethinking the role of a world-class, unique cultural institution. I am very much looking forward to hearing their visions, their successes, and maybe also some of the challenges they have faced along the way. And I invite you to join me welcoming Colette and Alistair tonight. So allow me to start with you, Colette, because your engagement in this dialogue on innovation, technology and creativity highlights the importance of keeping people at the center. Could you tell us what inspires this commitment and why this is so important to you right now?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sure. Yes. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this talk. I think it is a unique chance to get into an exchange to a very important topic. And of course, it's wonderful to see all these people to come here and listen to what we are talking. So thank you so much, Isabel and Alistair, for this chance to speak here. Yes, well, human-centric approach. I think there is no transition without people. And we can talk about technology, innovation, we can talk about efficiency, we can talk about technology being embraced by whom? So it can only be a human. And therefore, I believe, and I started a long time ago, to jump from the normal change to the human-centric way of changing things and actually doing transformation and including people in these steps, because you can make so many failures on the road of transformation that if you don't include the ideas of your people, who actually are the ones at the end who should use it and who gives us the profits, the efficiency, and the ideas, and the products, the customer orientation. So that is why my focus is on a transformation with a sincere human-centric approach.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Do you want to add anything to that from your perspective, Alistair?
I think, obviously, it's about, in the end, doing it for us. And also, we talk now about innovation in the fields of the human and the non-human as well. But I think even when we talk about that, it's still an act of self-preservation, or at least looking after an idea of humanity in the end. And I think this is, again, this is something that ZKM also stands for, that yes, we're an institution that brings art and technology together, but the purpose is to do that for societal benefit, and that's in the end, that's the goal.
Yeah, it's not self-serving technology. It's always for a human, for people, and the changes should be for the people. But we forget about it, because if we get into all this technology and these changes, then you forget actually sometimes that it is serving somebody. So that's why I think it's so important. Yes, you're right, Alistair.
We have some technology here to embrace, specifically brought by Tina. I don't know whether we could maybe...
We should mention it, seeing as it's dominating the stage.
Yes, that's why I'm mentioning it, and I don't know whether I'm allowed to just give a boo-boo somebody here in the audience.
Yeah, I think so. I think we should. So in the spirit of serious playfulness, which maybe we'll talk about, we have on the stage some members of our new emerging
you have to stroke them.
Robot petting zoo.
And you look like you could.
Which is basically a version of a children's petting zoo, but with these robotic guinea pigs called mufflins or boo-boos or peanuts. And they are basically, they are AI enabled, and they are little creatures that respond to touch and make noises and respond to your voice and learn. And despite this being, a nice gimmick, in some sense, it's also part of a serious research project with KIT and the Department of Human-Machine Interface there at the university to look at how robots can be embedded into society, into healthcare, how we learn about how to live with machines, and so on. So there's a serious element to it, but also hopefully a little bit of therapeutic play involved as well.
Well, I see people laughing already, so it works.
Yeah.
So imagine if you have fear for flying or something.
I fell in love with one of them.
Oh, I have another one for you.
That would be nice to
I have another one for you then.
But
no, take this.
I will get a link because I think they're so wonderful. Yeah. Well, okay. Preparing my role for being grandmother or something.
This was, I think, one of the, when we prepared this talk, we had defined certain areas which are important for what we want to talk about. And one of them was embracing technology and how to achieve that. Now it's the question who wants to answer that in the context of innovation. I think for the energy transition, it's hugely interesting to hear then how people can benefit from it.
Yes.
And maybe somebody could move the slides or or should I take the clicker?
We can use it.
No,
I think your slides are at the beginning anyway.
Yeah,
so, but it doesn't matter. I would say what do we benefit by the EnBW? Now, I don't have to tell you what happened in 2012 after Fukushima happened. The EnBW, the core business of the EnBW was the nuclear generation. And actually, we did it for so long that I don't think anybody, I wasn't there at the time, as you said, 2019, I entered the EnBW, but it was a great shock for the people. You must see, it was not only a shock because suddenly the business model was gone, it was a shock to the people because they had been very proud generating nuclear energy, and suddenly they were from the good ones to the bad ones. And that made something with the people. So I think here the EnBW said we have to look into the future. We have to do something which is a vision and which puts us from the side of stepping out of the nuclear into something that really people would love or would embrace. And yes, and then suddenly we invested into wind offshore and onshore projects, not having been doing it before. So this was like, not flying to the moon, but it was a bit, challenging, and nobody knew if it would really be a robust business model. Today, we have 60% of our generation is from renewable, and we are very, very proud because we are building the biggest one. There are also other competitors, but of course, we are very, very, very positioned in this field, and we have fantastic project teams in Hamburg and France and England and everywhere. So that was one thing. It started from nothing, from the idea of we need to employ people and give them a vision that they can stay in the company. So the next thing was also we invested, and that was even more, I would say, for everybody, a real surprise. We invested in the infrastructure of e-mobility. It had nothing to do with what we had been doing before. So they started with an idea. I think it was good that we were first mover. Nobody really knew how to do it, and if the idea would really be robust enough to get money out of it. But EnBW now today has the largest infrastructure for e-mobility in Germany, and we are market leader. And we have so many things, maybe we will talk about it later, but it's also how did we get the customers, and how can people, as you said, embrace technology? Because it means safe jobs, it means robust business models. And if we hadn't been thinking about it, if we hadn't been bold enough to do it, if the people wouldn't have embraced the chance for technology and innovation, we wouldn't be here. So that's my. I think that's so exciting that it happened, and I'm so proud of this company.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, that it happened due to an external thing like Fukushima.
Yeah.
Because there is, of course, that is fantastic, and it's something that was maybe, if you look at the car industry, overdue to change your ways where you get your energy from. Yeah.
But it's often the way that that is external forces, pressures that force the changes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually the norm.
Yeah, that's actually it happens all the time.
Well, with art, I think it's more diffuse to get what changes society. I mean, could you give an example where you think innovation has changed society through art?
Well, I mean, we speak now as ZKM, and as I said, the purpose is to really think about how art and technology can be combined.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems we have is in our cultural history that we still maintain a difference between the two.
Yep.
We still separate them, and that's really embedded in our cultural psyche, and particularly here in Germany. Even the Frankfurt School of Philosophers really had a resistance to technology. They saw it as something distancing, whereas something like arts and humanities were about, really creating authenticity. And that separation is very much baked into our cultural way of thinking. And that means that we are naturally resistant to technology. It means we are, in the first sense, fearful of it or nervous of it and see it as something other. And what I see now, and that applies to changes with ZKM as well, is the world is shifting and changing from being a kind of a Eurocentric world to a post-Europe world, and this is a huge moment, and in a way, the other big change that sets the scene for this conversation, which is, in Europe, we do have a slight crisis of confidence when, kind of the China is on the rise, US. Korea, US, or certainly Silicon Valley, other parts of the world are now emerging as the kind of technological go-getters and the high-powered economies. And we've missed a trick. We've been comfortable. We haven't innovated. We thought for example, here in Germany, our sort of engineering know-how and mindset would steer us through, and that's clearly not the case. So my view is that we can think more, especially with somewhere like ZKM, about how artistic processes, artistic thinking, artistic approaches aren't just something that are for the culture sector, but are something that we can inject into all aspects of life. We did have some images ready, and also, this is an off-the-peg image for anyone doing a PowerPoint presentation on innovation, but it's an interesting one because it is the difference between the closed innovation model, which is everybody working towards delivery of a product, narrowing down the parameters till you get to market, as it says here, and an open innovation model where you constantly refer and consult and add into the mix things from outside your system in order to diversify and to find things that you didn't necessarily expect, and you might, in this sense, apply it to products, but we could also apply this to art. Yeah. That if you think about, there's a world of art where it's just within the realms of art history and within people in the art world thinking that they're innovating, and then there's another version where you bounce ideas off the public, where you involve the public or different cultures, different mindsets into the way art works, and for me this is the better spirited model, and I think we need somehow to combine these in the ways that in many times, and particularly in media art and things, these have happened. And I just thought it's worth referencing some examples. So when I worked in Manchester at the University of Manchester, I worked here with the gentleman on the right, Kostya Novolosov, and Andrei Gaim, who they invented graphene. And won the Nobel Prize for it. Now, what was interesting...
2010.
Thank you. And what's interesting about Kostya is he's kind of an artist as well. And in fact, he's a specialist in Chinese calligraphic painting as a hobby, but he thinks like an artist. And in fact, graphene was invented when they had a Friday afternoon playtime sessions at the lab at the university, and they were just seeing for fun who could get the thinnest layer of carbon off some pencil drawings on a piece of paper. And from this very simple afternoon of play, this led to the discovery of graphene.
I found, if I may, Alistair, a very nice quote by himself, because this kind of combines the playfulness. We talked about innovation should be creativity and room for play. And he said, a playful idea is perfect to start things, but you then need a really good scientific intuition that your playful experiment will lead to something, or it will stay as a joke forever.
Yeah.
Joking for a week or two is the right way to go, but you don't want to make your whole research into a joke.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can distinguish, I think, between innovation and invention.
Yeah.
And innovation really is the application of the thing you invent or the new idea. And interestingly, they invented graphene, but they struggled to find applications. There was a whole new unit set up at the university to find applications for this new super product. Meanwhile, in the space of a year, there were 2,000 patents registered in China already for the product that they invented. Yeah. So they were already falling behind.
And then to explain that now the uses for graphene are in drinking water, in smartphones, computers, satellites, planes, cars, building materials, military equipment, nuclear cleanup. So,
yeah, and so in a way, this is probably a lesson. Also, is it one thing to be creative and inventive, but it's also then how you really work with people to put this into practice and to kind of embed this into
society.
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned, our new business models. I mean, that is just something fantastic, because if you don't have any knowledge about a thing, and then suddenly you have a vision, you say, we want to be climate neutral, we want to go new ways, we want to build offshore parks. It can only happen with the people. You know, the one thing is the technology, but the others have to be so bold, robust in their character to say we are going to do it, because if it would have failed, it would have been a huge invest into nothing. So I think experimenting has something to do with technology, a vision, but also you need a room. And I really admire artists, because they seem to have more freedom. You know, they're not asked all the time, is it on budget? Is it on time? Do you have the right people?
They are sometimes.
That depends. That depends.
Where are the KPIs? You know, sometimes probably. But on the other hand, you know, it is like they have their own pressure. I think that's the worst for each artist, because they want to strive for success, but and they get up in the morning and they question themselves. But I say being creative and innovative in a room or an environment where you have people and stakeholders and shareholders, it is sometimes difficult to be innovative, you know, with big ideas.
Well, yeah, I think you have to move the creativity also in how you sell your product to the customers.
Absolutely.
Then to have exactly that change with energy. If another supplier is cheaper, then people don't think so much about sustainability anymore. So, just so you know, after we had planned this discussion to go for about 45-50 minutes, and then we have room for questions. Right, so you don't think that you get out here without asking anything. Okay, we focused also. I mean, we can hop between the slides that were provided. Collaboration and diversity were also strong items for innovation, which you mentioned beforehand. So, would you like to mention an example where collaboration was essential to achieve societal change? Do you want to?
That's
a tough one.
Well, maybe it's not the same, but I could it's interesting showing this, if I can as well, which in a way is about collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually on the left is a picture of us installing this semi-artwork in ZKM at this moment. And on the right, its original incarnation at an exhibition called Cybernetic Serendipity at the ICA in London in the 60s. And this is actually not an artwork. It is in a way a structure that is created by the cybernetic theorist Gordon Pask. Mm-hmm. But he used artistic thinking, artistic forms in order to demonstrate and test his theories. And he mixed with artists and worked with artists in order to kind of get his ideas out into the world and to get them shared. So essentially, this is a cybernetic system of basically 3 men and a woman in a bar trying to chat each other up. But it's a system of reflectors and mirrors and sensors that creates a conversation between these sort of mobile structures. But the point was, as they were developing cybernetic theory, which at the time and still has huge potential, which is how can we really make a balanced system for operating society that actually works for everybody? How can we do this? And by creating these kind of computationally enhanced models, they were really proposing ways in which we could organize society. Now, of course, a lot of these this early thinking, you might say, has lost its way because the Musks of the world have, and the Googles of the world have really kind of co-opted all those best intentions of the socialization that
we shouldn't let them.
Computers could bring. Yeah,
we shouldn't let them. Right?
No.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think sometimes it's quite good to revisit these historical ideas and these structures and artistic propositions to say, no, there was a creative social intent still there, and we shouldn't forget this.
Yeah, that is about artificial intelligence. Well, you mentioned it now, how it is co-opted. Is that referring to your next slide, or do you think the one with hell, or?
That's the mufflins. But this is also an interesting case in study about the interplay between societal structures, culture, and engineering. And this is on the right. This is a computer that's currently at KIT, disused, that we're showing next year and attempting to bring back to life. And it's the CM2, which was actually the first computer designed for artificial intelligence in 1986. And it was designed by an artist, Tomiko Thiel, who you see standing there. And its inspiration came from the fictional computer you see on the left, which is HAL from 2001: Space Odyssey.
I can't do that, David.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, David. So this really shows that this model was created by a whole bunch of engineers actually on East Coast America, and Tomiko as an artist and a designer, to make a machine that really would have the world's encyclopedia inside it, and that could be programmed and reprogrammed in ways that replicated the human brain. So this was a radical step forward in innovation in computer science, but was written out of the history of computers as being, it never worked, it never happened, it wasn't a success. But actually, when you look at it, a lot of the engineers and the processes that were in it led to current big tech solutions in AI. So this is the new NVIDIA machines that we're looking to acquire for ZKM, which are the state-of-the-art AI equivalents. Yeah. But actually, the science behind this was developed on the CM2. The people designing the chips for the CM2 ended up in NVIDIA. The people working on the processing connectivity of the CM2 are now at Google, and they're working in AI. So the DNA of these kind of quite clunky early machines is now in our big systems. Yeah. But the point is, we need to kind of work together to understand how these things actually work at a human level and a social level, and understand the technology, so they don't just look like black boxes, scary black boxes from science fiction, but we are able to rehumanize them and use them to our own end. So our Hertz lab at ZKM is really desiring these in-video machines so that we can have this offline.
Yeah.
And a place like ZKM can be a place where anybody, artists or engineers or everyday citizens, can come and play and learn how to take back control of these systems that we regard as being a threat.
Yeah.
We were talking about collaboration, and without collaboration and diversity, you wouldn't have been able to develop it.
No.
You know, it's. I think that is a very important thing to know. And you asked about how important is diversity. I think it's not only me. We all know that diversity is under pressure. There are few people in this world who think that we don't need a diverse world anymore. I can only tell you from a business point of view, without diversity, you will not be able to reach out to your customers and get the customer experience you want. I just want to make an example to make it not too shishi for everybody. We were talking about the infrastructure for the e-mobility. When EnBW started to roll out the infrastructure, of course, they were all technicians who did this in a perfect way. What they didn't make a research of is who are the target groups. They forgot about the women.
Yeah.
Because when they were rolling out to the locations, they had actually already on the plan, there were also no lamps in the evening, no lights, and we made a survey and we found out that the e-cars, the smaller e-cars, actually the ones who are used for going shopping and so on, and there are 40% of these cars are driven by women. So if you wanted them to actually go and use the infrastructure, we made the survey, and what did they want? They wanted to have a light, they wanted to have a toilet, because they have small children, and funny enough, every time they go somewhere, then they have children, they need to go to the toilet. So that was something they required. Nobody thought of that. Yeah. And also they wanted to have not only the infrastructure on the highway, they wanted to have it where they are spending their days, also by going shopping in a way that they have to go to the supermarket and then do whatever they do anyway, and then combine it with charging their cars. So when we started doing this, we saw suddenly that our charging systems were used much more than before. And it is also for, there's another thing, I think disabled people are not really put into focus when you develop products. So we did a survey on that as well, and we found out that somebody who is disabled and needs a wheelchair, they couldn't use our infrastructure. So that is something we have put in mind now, and we are working on a solution on that. So that is what I think. If you don't have diversity within an innovation process, and there are only the technicians who say we need to have it working, then
are most of your technicians
males?
Yeah.
Yes, most.
And were at least the requirements for the male population, for the male part of population, were they satisfied? I mean,
oh yes, the male population, because they use the car for going from this to that point, and they don't have, I would say, the variety of. They're happy now with everything we have, because they are also males who go shopping, especially at the weekends, and then they have their children with them. So they really benefit from everything that is there today, but they never required it. They just want to have it, and I think that is also important, that it is quick, that it is free, that you have an app where you can see where's the next free charging point. So I think the ideas of the male and the ideas of the female and the diverse ideas put together, it makes a very good, I would say, customer usage, so experience.
And you being head of HR in many ways at EnBW, were you able, or are you able, or have you got examples maybe to show how you fostered more diversity or more women in roles that were not traditionally held by them for?
Yes, well, you know, in a traditional energy company, it's strange for myself, because when I came to 2019, I was told that I was the first woman on a director's board in 100 years. And it was strange for some people to take over the role. When I came, there were not as many women, and now we have made lots of, I would say, good programs to get more women into leadership roles, because I think we need them everywhere. I have some wonderful colleagues sitting here, female colleagues sitting here, from all different departments, and they make the difference, you know, because they have a different point of thinking. It's either in the innovation of grid, we have somebody sitting here, then in compliance, then somebody over there. Really, I don't know where you are at the moment, but as an engineer, always on an engineer way, on technology way. So I think we need to get a different mindset. We do think differently. And I think also technology needs our thoughts and ideas and creativity.
But is the creativity process, is that really different? I mean, maybe you, as heading a cultural institution, know that. Would you think that women are differently creative than men?
I think not just women, but anybody with a different socio-cultural perspective. It brings, you know, from their, you know, I'll say the difference between male and female is highlighted because of our history of different social structures that create, you know, for example, women end up, you know, mostly looking after the children and driving around,
shopping,
and men are just driving to work in the pub or whatever. You know, it's there are reasons why that is, but I think we have to have a deeper understanding of diversity in the process of rethinking innovation, because actually there are kind of three different types of diversity. There's biodiversity, which we understand as being the natural system, and we understand very well why diversity is important in nature in order for it to adapt and survive. But we can't think of that as being separate from us. So then, in a way, you have our own social cognitive diversity, which is the way we think and the way we relate to the world, and it's whether we're from a different culture, a different geography, a different sex, whatever that might be. And then thirdly, you have really now techno-diversity. And I think this is really important to understand as we approach technology, is there isn't just one technology. There are many different technologies that are shaped and influenced by the other two diversities, by the natural world and by the social world. And what's interesting now, I think, and this is from a kind of art point of view, is we now have many different technological worlds in the field of art emerging from places in Indonesia, in China, in Africa, in South America that aren't from the usual pool where, for example, ZKM maybe sourced its artists from. We now have, you know, last week I was working on a show with a Mexican Zapatista robot engineer and his engineers from Mexico City, who have a completely different take on how to use technology and take it and adapt it, not just take it as a given. It's a bit like the same with our petting zoo. This is a off-the-shelf product, but by taking it off the shelf, our research team and artists playing with it, adapting it, hacking into the robots, and in a way misusing it, we can discover new ways for it to work.
Yeah.
But you asked, are there different approaches? Well, we have a unit, a startup unit, or an innovation unit where they identify startup ideas and actually see them grow. There are only 18% of females who are self-employed in a startup. So that has something to do because investors do rely more on a male startup idea than a female startup idea. There's a survey to this. It's interesting. But if you ask them in their approaches, you would have the males really on the technical side, on the technical side, on the regulation and the quick and what's it doing, and the women would focus on the customer user experience, on the way, the look and feel. They would be more interested in these things. So I think we need the combination. You know, if we can get this done in the future, I think there's fantastic things that can be done.
Yeah. I think we should move on.
Also on the medical side. There's so many medical innovation where women have not been included to look at as a customer that we really need to face. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think we really, and you are right, Alistair, I don't want to focus on gender equality from women and men. It is a big topic, but we have all sorts of diversity. We talk every day about diverse, but I think it is essential if you talk about creativity, innovation, and technology in the future, and when it has to work, we really have to look more and get more people with a different mindset.
I was wondering, you prepared 2 slides on EnBW, if you want, because
actually
the
one maybe we can have a
quite interesting.
Focus.
I think
it's quite. I would go from
the next
there maybe here to
exactly
to take the human-centric part, because the other thing we've been talking about how the business innovation developed, but here, what are we doing at EnBW to get our employees more used to technology and innovation? You said before, it is, some people are afraid of changes. And I just read a Bitkom survey 2 weeks ago. It was released about the successes of technology in Germany. It wasn't really a good and successful story if you want to read. No. But I thought one question was really interesting, because they asked people, are you afraid of losing your job, or that your job is going to be so influenced by technology, and are you afraid of it? And 70% who have never been able to experiment technology, digitalization, said yes, 70%, I am afraid that I will lose my job, that I will not be able to be as successful in my job. It came down to 20% when people were able and have learned something about technology, when they knew how to use it, when they knew what impact it would have on their jobs, and when they were able to think about it, what could it mean, even if you didn't have a process yet. So that's why we think our people need to experiment, our people need to know what you can do, and our people in all classes, the first picture you see here is in our vocational training. We have started a digital innovative program, and our young people are going through this. And we have this robot dog. Where is it? You have one
somewhere
here. It's somewhere around here. Yeah. It's more or less the same. And I think you have a name for it. We don't. Come on, just show you the dog.
Yeah, bring your dog along.
Bring the dog about. No. Okay. So anyway, we have this dog.
Let sleeping dogs lie.
And it's, of course, a robot dog.
Yeah.
Where do we need it for? We need it for maintenance of our, for example, turbines on the offshore, so that they can go up the steps and get some data. And so we start this, but we also have virtual reality for maintenance. I would say there's nothing really drones. if you come to our vocational training, I invite all of you to have a look at it at some stage. You will be astonished. The young people work with everything, and they embrace the idea of having a very interesting job. The same things in another environment suddenly makes the people scare the people.
Frightened.
So what we want as well is that we get all these technology tools for our people to see and to experiment with them. And our CEO is here tonight, and maybe you will be able to say one or the other word. What we want to do, we have a special leadership program now, which we have one module together, and they have to really experiment with AI. And you see, some of them have never ever used it before. But
basically, you are also addressing the point that the educational system should innovate as well. Because
absolutely, you would actually need to start with it.
Yeah.
This is key. Yeah.
Absolutely, I think you would have to start in the kindergartens, actually,
exactly.
But we are starting, and we forbid everything. I don't know if anybody of you know Jasmin Weiss. Yes, I know. René knows her. She is a professor on a high school, and she teaches AI and technology. Mm-hmm. And I was with her on a podiums discussion, and she said that her children, 2 hours before they go to bed, she does programming with them. And then suddenly there were 3 women sitting with us, and they went like, "Oh, how dare, before they go to bed, oh my God." And then he said, what do you think? There's something happening to them. She says, we do this like if we look or would read nursery rhymes. So I think we really have to think about different things. Of course, we shouldn't stop our children to think for themselves and make intellectual cripples because they only use AI and ChatGPT for their homework.
But now you sound scared.
No, I'm not. No, I think we should have an intellectual challenge still, but if our children are not able to use the new technologies for them, then I would be afraid.
But also what's really important is to really innovate in education because of the way technology has changed the way we learn and the way we see the world. So, if I can write all my essays on ChatGPT and I can outsource my brain to my phone, then what other ways of thinking and learning actually could be enhanced in this situation, and not necessarily see that as a bad thing, but to say, how could we learn in different ways? And it seems to me that what you're piloting here in this kind of vocational learning is something you could really reverse engineer back into the school system, into the university system, which was a completely different way of learning, which is about making and doing and actually having social relations and discourse beyond the facts and figures.
We actually have a program, and we have 12 schools in Baden-Württemberg where we go and teach them and also go with them through what legislation do you have, what is about hate speech and so on. This also because I think they need to know, but it is so immense to see that the schools are not able to provide anything in that way. And of course, why do we do it? Not only because we like to
be innovative,
because we like to have young people from the schools to come and be educated with us and be our new employers,
Exactly. And I can tell you firsthand, I work at KIT normally, and that is a huge, huge challenge for universities or for education of the schools also. But I mean, that maybe some other talk we'll talk about the education and what is needed.
Need a campaign to change the curriculum. It's a shame as well because we talk to a lot of teachers here at ZKM, and usually they're the teachers that go, "Oh, we really want to do things here," but the system doesn't allow them to. So the teachers want to change. The children want to change.
Parents want that.
Everybody wants to change, but so that's a serious issue if we're going to have some plans for how we actually do innovate.
But we'll work it out somehow. We have to. So we will. with a look at the clock, I would like to ask you to each one question and then turn to the audience and see whether there are other questions. I would like to ask you, Colette, specifically, that you are not only a business leader. Privately, you are also an art collector. And I was wondering how art has influenced your own way of thinking and working at EnBW.
That's a nice question. Well, I think I always wanted to be a first mover in things. And I also seeked for new ideas, innovation. I always thought it was exciting to think into the future. If you could think into the future, what would it be? What could it be? And art taught me to be open, to be creative, sometimes also to look at something I didn't understand, but it helped me in a discussion with people. It was so collaborative. You could have different views about something, about a piece of art, but you never screamed at each other. That is, I never experienced that. When we sometimes discuss, we are very emotional about if we want to have the change or what we understand. With art, it was different. We were talking about it and everybody had a different view, and that was okay, because sometimes artists don't even want you to say this means this or this. So
on the contrary.
That's why I can only, and I do it myself actually, last Friday I was in the Kunstpalast in Düsseldorf with the art director. He showed me some of his art pieces and the way he curated it. I thought that is always very interesting. So I can only encourage people who are interested in the development of creativity and embrace innovation to go to art museums, to get into a contact and talk about it. And that's why I'm so happy that I have the possibility, the one or the other time, to talk to Alistair and others. And I must say, it really helps broaden your mind, you know, and you don't have to be afraid of something. You have time, you can stand, think, and you don't have to be afraid of failing. I think it's so fantastic. So I can only encourage everybody. Get more involved with art.
You are also on the board of ZKM.
That's true, yes, I am.
But on the other hand, Alistair said, you mentioned that the art world itself can be conservative. And I was wondering how you challenged that and how you managed to nurture a culture of openness and innovation here at ZKM.
Well, it's a lot easier at ZKM because we're not a conventional art museum. Yeah. And I've worked in a lot of art museums and galleries around the world. And unfortunately, I mean, a lot of art, the art world is dictated by consensus of opinion, by art historical protectionism, by usual social forces, and by the market. And in a way, we're a little bit liberated from that here at ZKM, that we don't really show art that's super successful in the market. We show art that's made by engineers and tinkerers and scientists and people operating outside of the system to a certain degree. And that gives an enormous freedom that I think we can only encourage. And I would like to encourage other art institutions to be a bit more adventurous and a bit more, playful. Yeah. Nonetheless, we're still trying ourselves to always think anew as we adapt to a new context. So we have to bring in, for example, artists from other cultures and artists who we don't necessarily understand or agree with, or who bring in something new. And I also brought in this idea, you mentioned the Fellow Travelers show, about curating with serendipity, which was essentially not knowing where we're going. And I think embracing the not knowing is something that is a little bit frightening to the art world in many ways. And then I actually learned there wasn't a word for serendipity in German. Which sort of
let's see what the machine says, no? The translating machine.
But so I think that it's very interesting to kind of challenge ourselves, actually, to say, well, maybe we don't know. Maybe but to bring people together and with us in understanding that we don't know what is to come, but maybe through process. And I think this is something very similar as well, that we embrace process in order to get to where we don't yet know where we're going.
Yeah.
I have one thought. That is actually the reason for our collaboration. I mean, we are working together, and we have just had a small exhibition of Daniel Kanyogar, Pixel Weaver. Yeah. And it's about technology, and it was so inspiring for our employees, you know, so they can come and have a look. What does that have to do with my work? Why is EnBW doing it? We have a wonderful curator at the EnBW who works together with ZKM, and of course we always have in mind not only showing the piece of art. That's one thing. The other thing is how, you know, the educational part, being interested, being, you know, just to give our people the possibility to discuss things in a different way. And I know that it is used very often and currently. So I just wanted to say that because I forgot to talk about it. It's really something that helps us educate ourselves, discussing about something with the help of art.
Yeah, as a metaphor. Yeah.
And next we're going to make an exhibition with NFTs later this year, which I think is also interesting because on the one hand we think, you know, NFT, the bubble's over. But
they still exist. That was my first.
But they do, and the technology that enables them and blockchain, I think, is still to be something that we don't know yet, and that also is very exciting. And why you have to persevere with and work with artists to really imagine.
That's how business and art come together and inspire each other.
Yes, that's lovely.
And we'll finish on a good note to finish on.
No. I would love to have some questions from the audience. Who is? So you're invited, yes. And please introduce yourself so we...
Okay,
and could you stand? Yeah, thank you.
I can stand. I'm my friend. I work in KIT for 4 years. I came to Germany for 4 years ago. And I have a comment, maybe that you can re-comment as well, please. I worked in Portugal, Switzerland, Netherlands, and now I'm here. And I was never in an environment so fear of innovation as here. And I think, and so in love with normalization, and that's impressive. And the second question, I think, going to a larger scale, if we think about the world, we have China, the US, and Europe, right? We have maybe 2 autocratic countries, right? China and US, and Europe, we are supposed to be free. But the innovation is coming from them and not from us. So can you comment on this?
That was the original theme, right? You just returned from Korea. So
yeah, I mean, I just came back from Korea, where we have a couple of collaborations, and it's very clear there that they're racing ahead, same as China. But Korea is also very interesting because it's still a democratic country with ambitions to connect with Europe in this way. And of course, they were joking about Germany. I went with a delegation from Karlsruhe and our culture mayor, and they were laughing, saying, "Oh, you know, you Germans, you know, we're going to build this thing in 2 years' time, and you take 10, and you have so much bureaucracy, and you have so much fear around this, and we are firing ahead." And this is true of the post-Europe world. But I don't think the post-Europe world is one without Europe, and I don't think it's one that's then going to be Sino-centric or is going to be, you know, American empire. We should work to a world where there is dialogue between the two, because in a way, why we were asked to go to Korea, for example, is they're racing ahead, but what they don't have is a kind of different, a diverse intellect in the same way. What they don't have is a history and a culture of deep thinking in the way that Europe does, of that kind of philosophical position. They in a way, there's still a need to calibrate technology with values and ethics, which I think is still a strong component, you know, that we have here in Europe. So it's probably a combination of the two. It won't be equally balanced. They will still race ahead, but I still think there's a role, and hopefully, in a two-way dialogue, that some of that kind of go-getting, let's just try it approach can feed its way back into the system here. But it is the issue why we're discussing this today.
Yeah, maybe I can give another idea. You talked about, no, you said it, bureaucratic, regulatory framework we have. That really keeps away a lot. We have governance structures, we have legislation about data issues and so on. But to say the truth, this is also something that the EU stands for. And I think that is something you can like or you can dislike. But of course, for the fast technology development, it hinders you getting fast. On the other hand, of course, it has some implication for the user and the customer, which helps also. The other thing is in venture capital. You have in America a completely different way of risk thinking. It's the same in China. It's a different system because the Chinese, they just want to get market shares. They want to invent. They want to be first mover. And then they just put a lot of money into a lot of topics on innovation, and the risk capital in America is huge. It's not like here. So we don't have the money to play with to scale things in a way that we can also risk it. You know, you have to be quite sure if you get money from the banks over here. And I think another thing is also the quality gates. We like to have and develop things that work. If we see Tesla, when they came first with the electric car, I think it was a bit like fail fast, but learn fast. So they were producing a car, and there were so many failures, but then they got the user experience, and the next car was better. But they got the user experience. BMW, it took them much longer. They were the first out with the car. It took them much longer because we don't have this thought of buying, selling, and developing. And that's why I think there are two different systems. What I experience is if the EU understands that they have to be quicker and do better, and be not as fearful in everything that has to do with technology, I think they will be very fast because we have the brain. Everybody else too, but I think we have a lot of people, and we have the thought of sustainability as well.
Although you mentioned Germany being specifically even different within Europe, if I understand you correctly. Yeah.
I know, Germany.
I said it diplomatically, I said specific. Is there maybe some subject we did not address?
Yeah. You could add something to that. Yeah.
No, I just want to thank you very much for this interesting talk. And would like, by the way, my name is René. I'm the nerd of EnBW, so I'm the CIO. And just changing topics, because we talk about digitalization and art, and I think this combination is so fruitful. I have a question I'm debating, and I never come to an answer. This is the output of any generative AI art, or is it a copy of existing? And let me explain a little bit. When I also do a bit art myself, and when I go into that process, of course, I mimic existing artists. I try to train myself on existing methods and tools and reuse them, and then every now and then there's a spark, and there might be a new idea. One step. So it's many, many little steps that lead to innovation, that lead to new art. On the other hand, I know the technology quite well, how ChatGPT and the like are really working. And it is, of course, trained on existing material to recombine and reuse. So there is no new. This is trained on new. But now what's the difference? Here's many, many little steps to recombine existing. Here's this little artist training on existing art and combining it. So is the outcome creative in art or not?
That's something for you.
Well, it depends who you ask.
It's the process.
My answer would be yes. It is art. Of course it is, because we designate it as art. It's what kind of art it is a question. In what sense is it art? But yes, it's art, because a creative process, whether that's gone through a human mind or a non-human mind has resulted in a creative process, an act, and an object that comes out of that process. And that's, in a way, by definition, many definitions, is art. So from my point of view, we have to go now, more than ever, we have to go beyond these fixed ideas of whether something is art or not, and think more in sense of, well, what kind of art are we making and what do we do with it? And in this mix also, I think we can differentiate between still at the moment, the AIs that we create, the processing that we create is still processing at the moment. It is not making judgments. It is simulating thought processes. It is simulating the creative act as humans. It's simulating the human creative act, but it is not actually having an imagination. And I think at the moment, we can still hold on to the idea that we do have an imagination, and that is one of our strongest assets that we can still hold on to, and we can still imagine and think about things that a machine wouldn't. Because if we go back to that, if we expanded on that open innovation diagram that I showed, that is something that we still do that a machine wouldn't do, is we would go, oh, but what if I just do this over here and break the rules? And at the moment, we're not processing the machines that can do that.
Thank you.
But I love the idea of art being made by things that are not human. I think it's fascinating and interesting. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Who wants to?
Okay.
If I'm allowed to a second. So you said imagination is what distinguishes from creative process done by a machine and by a human being. I didn't understand well. And I'm going to add something. What's the most important? Is imagination or emotion in the product?
Well, I wouldn't separate imagination and emotion. I think they're interdependent as well. I think we have a neuroscientist in the room as well. But yeah, I think it's a mistake to think of these things as separate. They're a constellation of connected things that make us operate the way we operate. But I think, if we're going to talk, imagination is still something where we can, without necessarily the pure data, we can think beyond the pure data that we have on the table, and that's that's what I'm saying is the difference between, data processing to create a simulation of an artistic outcome as compared to, as really going beyond what we have on the table.
Thank you. Henning? And please introduce yourself.
Mein Name ist Henning Rickmann, hier von Karlsruhe. I try to make a point on this topic product. Yeah, if you think about products, this is useful in the terms of something makes it safe or easier or quicker in a process in this world. But if you take this product and compare this with the system of artworks, I would like to have a comment on this by both of you, because I think this is completely different. And art, or the origin of art, wasn't a product. So, and the art world. It's interesting. The slide with the goal looking to the market. The art world, at some stages, looked to the market, and this was criticized. But this is difficult because there are different institutions, and the institution here is a real, as you said, a free, ein Freiraum, a free place where you can looking for ideas and so. But this is not a product, and I would like to sharpen this term.
So for you, art is not a product, different to a product like energy.
It can be a product, but it's in the core of it, it's not a product. It's kein Produkt.
Yeah, I would agree. I always describe art as a process that you can apply to anything. It does occasionally produce outputs or material things that then become commodified or exhibited or forgotten or lost. But
or cherished.
But in the end, for me, art is a process that is constantly in play, and it's the market aspect of the art world is one that takes these things that are produced and turns them to the market. But there are many other versions of art that don't follow that route, that get used in ritual, or they get used in illustration, or in pure experimentation. There are many different products you could imagine that come out of this process.
Colette, you want to?
Yes, I agree. We are two different sections. I mean, business, in the end, after being creative and having a vision, of course, we need to have a product at some stage. Whatever we are going to put into the market, we need to make money with it. And I don't think, absolutely, but that is not, I don't think that was what we wanted to state. We are absolutely clear, and we were talking up front, and I said, I'm a businesswoman, I'm an art collector, but that doesn't give me the qualification of talking about art in this section. That's Alistair's job. I'm a businesswoman. I can talk on that behalf. But what art helps, and I think that is what we wanted to state, and I can only assure you, is to get inspired by something. Art can help you. And I think the first move to become creative and to think about something, you don't have anything there, you just have an idea. Then you start doing something. And that is similar to a process an artist has to go through. But we are completely different. We need to make money because that is our USP. The artist has to make at some stage money, but that is nothing to be compared to what we are doing. So I think just the way, how can you inspire people, get more creative? Why is Germany so afraid of everything? Why are we so, clinging to all the processes we have? Is because we are, I think, sometimes we have the lack of being open, and I think art can help us get there more. It can help us. It's not, I don't say it is the solution for everything, but the start of something and to be open and embrace changes, I think we can learn from the artist, and we can learn from art. Well, I'm inspired. Every time I come here, I'm inspired and I have an idea for business.
But it was funny when I was looking for this slide about innovation, and you Google or go on ChatGPT around innovation, it's all about market.
Yeah.
The dominant language around innovation is around market, but of course that's because that's the dominant discourse in that area when you search. But of course, there's innovation for societal development. There's innovation for in nature, in biodiversity. There are many forms of innovation, but in a way, the market does dominate the discourse in this field, and maybe we should look at innovating our ideas of innovation a little bit as well.
Yeah. Well, these were wonderful closing statements, I think. The plaidoyer for art and openness and creativity, and you for rethinking innovation also in a broader context. And unless there is another question left, I would say let's continue this discussion at the bar, which is prepared outside. And I would love to thank you very, very much for your time and your input. And it was a pleasure talking to you here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.